Oh,
Go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to michED Live. I am Brandon. With me, as always, is my partner in crime, Jeff Gerlach, who's wearing a Mr. Hockey shirt. Doesn't look like Wayne Gretzky at all. So I'm not sure what that's all about. We've also got Peter Arashiro here in the blue hoodie. And we have got the incredibly clever Todd Block. Todd, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Brandon. How is everybody doing tonight?
I'm good, man. It's not snowing. I don't have to shovel maybe until the weekend, so I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well. I really like this topic that we've got here tonight. Love teaching, right? Hashtag love teaching. That's
Yeah,
perfect. It's a great timing for this Valentine's Day, right?
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Valentine's Day this weekend?
Oh man, if you haven't ordered anything, it's still time for Amazon 2-day shipping. So you better get on that right after this. But yeah, Superintendent Flanagan put out a video on this topic about love teaching, and he's in front of a red background, and this, gosh, you gotta love Mr. Flanagan, right? He's just the most charming dude, and he's sitting here eating a box of. I'm eating some nougats right now, and I've got
That's rolling, yes.
some a Butterfinger maybe, and maybe some Reese's cups. But
The thing I liked the most was that he was like committed to eating and talking at the same time.
it's
So, and the rest of
it
that
takes a
video,
very
he was working the. I mean, I think he had caramel or something in his teeth, but he kept
Caramel?
going. He's one take Flanagan. That's what he is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Classic guy. We love him. We love him. So tonight's topic, love teaching, as supported across the state by different tweet ups. I think there's one in St. Clair, right? There's Grand Rapids, and Todd is in Sterling Heights.
And Boyne City.
And Boyne City with our friend Aaron up there. So hopefully they can join us in a little bit if they get a chance. But there's a lot of tweets coming through right now. Jeff, did you see any that stood out to you for any of the questions?
Well, what was question number one?
Question number one is, what is the or are your top reasons that you love teaching?
And then we had Brian. How do you say Brian's name? Wizilic?
Weislick?
Weislick?
Loslick.
I love teaching because I get to help young adults realize the amazing people they are and learn some things along the way. Aaron, who is tardy right now and needs to get in the chat with us, or well, in the video with us, playing a role in kids learning to read. Playing a role in kids learning to read. I can't read. Aaron, you need to come help me out.
I'm sure he's busy with her tweet up, entertaining house guests.
Yes.
They're at
the
her
Boyne
house?
City.
Are they at her house?
I don't know if they're at her house, but I know they're in Boyne City, and they have about 5 teachers there, so I'm sure they're busy socializing and having a good time talking about what's going on. So I mean, loving teaching is a great hashtag, and I think promoting the positive to remind people why they're passionate about their jobs, and to take them away for at least a minute from the strains and pressures of policies that have really made teaching a tough place for some of us to be lately. So I commend Superintendent Flanagan, and I believe this started with Gary Abud, and I thank him for putting it out there. I put a blog post out there yesterday to the hashtag, a poem about why I love teaching, and I think we need to remember that and remind ourselves why we want to be in the classroom, because the daily stresses of teaching and the paperwork and data and testing really can drain us and make us feel bad about our jobs. And even having one student, talk back in a classroom of 30, we usually focus on the negative, that one negative student. So sometimes we forget about the other 29 positive students. And I think love teaching hashtag is helping us remember those things.
Absolutely, and it is, and I think we were talking about this right before we went live. It is important to accentuate the positive, right, and reinforce that, because it's easy to gravitate towards the negative and let that weigh on your mind a lot. And when you force yourself to sit and think, no wait, there's a lot of good things going on right now. I think that helps, right?
Sure does. I do. I think when I just took the time reading Gary's post about love teaching and focusing on it to write the poem I wrote on my blog, just taking that time made me sit back and rethink about all the positive things that I can have happen in my day. The smile of the student walking in the door, the student saying, "Hey, we missed you," after I missed last Friday to be at Nova Now when I came back in Monday. Students saying, "Hey, stopping you in the hallway and giving you a high five or a fist bump, or sharing with me I have a student that he shares graphic novels he's reading, and he's been dropping them off. He's like, "Mr. Block, this is a new graphic novel I'm reading," and I'm reading them and I'm talking to him about it. That's really fun, and it's like, that's why I teach. It's why I love teaching and going to work every day. I don't love looking at data. I don't love sitting in PD that I don't value. I don't those things I struggle with, but there are many, and I think more reasons why I love going to work than not. So we need to remember those and not dwell on the negative.
I think one of the unique things that teaching provides teachers, other than versus other kinds of careers, is that you're engaging. Somebody said that they're engaging with young adults, right? And you're engaging with other people in a way that is so different than if you're an accountant or if you are a doctor, or with the people who you are definitely influencing, right? And you're getting something from them too. So it's this very, very almost intimate kind of conversations and exchange of ideas, and a lot of things going on there in very short periods of time. And days go by very quickly when everybody's really busy. But I think on those days when you slow down a bit and really kind of step back and see all the engagement that's going on, it's so magical, and that's like life right there. You are like really experiencing life, and not a lot of people get to do that.
Yeah, that's great, Peter. Thanks. Yeah, we get to see students grow up right in front of us, and even as a parent, sometimes we miss it because being a parent of 3 children, sometimes we miss it and we don't enjoy it. But we can watch a student grow from day to day and hour to hour sometimes, where you see them at different times, and really having those unique moments where you see the light bulb go on in their heads, or you see them change a behavior and learn something new. And I think that's why some teachers do get frustrated, because we love seeing that, but we know that there's so much that we're affecting because we see this growth that's not measured in the test, and it's not measured in any of the data that you can see. And I think that's where teachers really ultimately get frustrated, because we are so intimately involved in these children's lives. In some cases, seeing them more hours in a day than parents, thinking of kindergarten teachers. And it's incredible what we're seeing happen throughout the 180-day school calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you get to watch them grow year to year too, because after they've left your classroom, you get to pass them by in the hall or see them at the football game or something, and just see that they've become like a pretty cool older kid, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that is awesome. It's kind of odd, I'm a middle school teacher, so I see these in 7th grade at the awkward years, and then I go to the high school football game and I see it adults, and I go, "Oh man, I remember you. Oh, you're so it's so different." And you really get great pride when those kids come back. I've been teaching now in a class for 15 years, so they come back, and recently saw a former student who was in our building and talking, and he's now 27, and I had him when he was 12, and he's talking about what he's doing, and you're seeing him as an adult. And actually, a former student was supposed to be here at this tweet up, but he had a band concert at the school where he teaches. He's now a teacher in Warren Education Association, so that right next to where I teach now. And I've been connecting with him and saw him at an ed camp, and I'm like, "Oh my God, and he impressed the heck out of me, Jason Rose." And it's like, "Jason, you've grown up to be," and he was in the first class I taught at Warren Woods. So it's incredible. I wish I could see more of them, because sometimes you just wonder, you remember that child, or you see that child, you see new students, and you go, "Oh, I remember just like this child," and just like that Bobby from 5 years ago. I wonder what happened to Bobby. We were talking about that just today at lunch. Like, what happened? I wish we had a better alumni association to bring these former success stories in, or former students in, just to say, where are they now and what have they done. Those are the wonderful moments that, for me. that's really awesome when you see those stories.
Absolutely. And speaking of memorable moments, question 2 is, what makes a great teacher so memorable? For me, I've always remembered the teachers who really personalized the course content to me, to my peers. I remember 7th grade Mr. Fountain physics class. And this was over 20 years ago, and I still remember the tests that he said, okay, if Jeff pushes Brandon off the top of the Empire State Building and he's falling at 8 meters per second squared, how long before he and like I don't remember the content as much, but I do remember how fun it was to that he went through and he personalized everything around us, and it made it so much more memorable. So that's what worked for me. What memories do you guys have about your teachers? What was memorable from your days as a student?
Well, definitely for me, I was a band geek, so I really just focused a lot of my time in that band room. And my band director, he was such a great musician and really very passionate, but very subtle in his ways. So he wasn't the kind of guy who would like just yell at you and just throw his baton at you or try to inspire you that way. He was very low key, and it was something about his approach that made you really focus on him, And so I really appreciated what he could draw out of us. And the kind of music that we were playing, it was quite advanced, really big pieces. So this was just band. It was an orchestra, but we'd play a lot of orchestral pieces that were arranged for wind ensembles. So the kind of things that we played were really, and at that time, because of my limited knowledge of the repertoire, we just play it and he'd have us play it, and then it's only years later that you really realize how incredibly challenging those pieces were, and he just made us really sound really good and expected a lot out of us and got a lot out of us. So I really, really appreciated the challenge that he presented to us, and he did it in a way that didn't demean us.
Right, yeah. And you remember that because
Absolutely.
of that. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, I'm curious to know how the memorable experiences you had as a student impacted the way that you taught as a teacher.
Oh, that's a good question. I remember Mrs. Ventrone was she was a business teacher, and I did an advanced study in web design with her, which was just independent study with me and Jim Blasi, who I haven't talked to in probably like 15 years now. But I remember that, and I remember new staff. My senior year, my junior and senior year, I was on new staff, I think. And then my cross country coach, Tom Carney, was instrumental in very memorable. And the thing that was really meaningful for me that I was getting space to create and being. It was almost. We were talking about your Mr. Miyagi picture, your avatar picture before we got going.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that Mr. Miyagi relationship where it's like not a ton is always said by a great teacher. It's little prompts here and there, and it's more questions than statements. And I remember Mrs. Ventrone would push me to places beyond her knowledge even of what could be done with I was learning HTML and CSS and all sorts of publishing languages, right? And she would push me to envision what I wanted to put on the canvas of a website, and then go about deconstructing how I could make it possible by doing my own research and trial and error, and that was really cool. The same with new staff. I remember hanging out with all the new staff kids during new staff hour, and it was always something new. It was a brainstorm session. People would pitch their story ideas. You would have to fight for your outline to stand up above the rest. It was like, you know, the TMZ like newsroom things where I got a story. It was a lot like that, and these fluid moments where teachers were more facilitators than they were imparters of knowledge. They were knowledge guides, and I think that informed my teaching a lot. Not initially. I taught horribly initially. I tried to take a textbook, put it on top of a kid's head, and through osmosis have it be absorbed. I mean, I tried to teach everything like I knew everything, and I think.
What learning style is that? That's not an approved one, I don't think.
Called osmosis, but it doesn't work in humans.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, like, I now that I'm sitting here reflecting on that, those teachers were great facilitators of learning. They were humble in the fact that they didn't know everything, and they were partners with me in my learning, and that's what was extremely memorable. And I think once I got comfortable with being an educator and kind of being comfortable in my own skin, that really related well to my own personality, which was laid back and curious and creative and wanting to be an equal partner with students. And so I think that was one of the single guiding, it still is a guiding principle of mine with designing instruction and working with teachers to give their students voice in class.
Absolutely. Todd, did you take anything from your experiences as a student to help inform your teaching?
Yeah, I had a couple teachers that are really memorable to me. There was a teacher, I went to junior high in Quincy, Illinois, and a gentleman named Charles Riddell was somebody who took the time to get to know you. He's soft-spoken, but he challenged and respected us, and he really listened and took the time to get to know us and our life stories. And then I went to, his son was also in our class, so we knew him well, and he was one of those teachers that really, took the time to listen to your concerns and what was going on and cared. You knew he cared about you and cared that you got it. And then I went to a weird school in Connecticut for high school, a boarding school named Kent, and I had a teacher my first year there, and I wasn't a good student at that point in time. I don't know if I am yet, but his name was William H. Armstrong, and most people know him because he was the author of Sounder, but he taught a course called General Studies that every freshman had to take, and through that course, I learned what it was like to study, and really, I learned everything I needed to teach in his course. It was a general studies course with integrated teaching of ancient history. He was a big fan of Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, and he wanted us to get it. But, in my teaching classes, they talked about, through column notes, SQ3R, all those different acronyms that we learned. It's, as we're told, we're teaching strategies. Well, Mr. Armstrong presented them to us in his freshman in high school as learning strategies and held us to use them. And it was that standard, and the fact that he said you can do anything, you just need to do it, and he challenged us and held us accountable for all our actions. I was a very bad student before I had him as a teacher. The teaching didn't hit me lightly. It didn't come by osmosis. He definitely did put a book on my head once when I was sleeping in class. At least close to my head. It was about right here. But reflecting as I've grown and gotten older, he was definitely one of the most memorable teachers I would ever have, and the lessons sunk in after time. And I think that's when you go back to lessons you had in prior years and remember those experiences, I think that's where you had that great teacher, and that's reflected on me too. I want to make those experiences, but I also want to hold the students highly accountable for their learning, and I want to make them think about what they're doing, and I also want them to know I care. So those are the things that I try to pass through in my teaching that I learned from the two guys I idolized as teachers when I was young and coming up. So, yeah, those are my experiences, and I definitely cherish them now.
Absolutely, and I bet you think about them a lot as you get ready to complete a lesson plan, or the kids are walking into the door and think, hey, I gotta honor those guys.
Yeah, certainly.
You know, I was reading a blog post by Michael Horn today, and he was talking about when we get a lot of snow days, the conversation always comes up with how the online environment can be used to eliminate snow days, right? And he was saying while that is definitely a truth, something that snow days remind us of is how valuable that building, that staff, and those students are, and how the relationships and the custodial care that schools and teachers provide is so invaluable that you don't realize it until there's a snow day and the kids are at home and you're trying to work from home and you're trying to keep them positively occupied with something that's good for them, and you realize what a tremendous service public education is, that not only can it be a place of wonderment and learning, but it's also this safe environment where when parents don't have their kids with them, there's no better place for them to be than with these mentors and these leaders. And I thought it was such, I spend so much time thinking about blended learning and the affordances of the online environment in particular. And yeah, it's awesome that you can eliminate snow days, but that's from a teaching and learning standpoint. And you can build relationships in an online environment too, but the point is how fundamental those relationships, those teacher-student relationships, and the kind of influence that teachers have over student-to-student relationships, it just can't be quantified.
Great point, Jeff. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's where the power is in blended, because you have the face-to-face and the online. I really struggle with young adults, and I teach middle school, so I have to reference that. But a young adult just doing something online, because without that face-to-face, at some point, I'm sure they can do it at, different aspects of it, but just exclusively online, in my experience, it just, without that relationship, they're not going to be as successful as they could be. And I think making those connections with the people that care about them, that show that they value them, that push them to do their best instead of just getting through it. It's not like they're shoveling the driveway. It's meaningful things that they're doing. I guess like right now it's people to shovel the driveway in Boston, but
Yeah.
so it's the point that relationships is the key to all teaching and all education, and for the relationships to stay positive, we need the teachers to reflect and remember why they love teaching. That's why it's so valuable to take these moments in time and talk about it, and to use the hashtag that we're promoting tonight in michED, and show off why we got into it. Why did you become a teacher? I know a lot of people joke around and who are outside of teaching and say, well, you got into teaching for the summers off, or you got into teaching because you want short days. And if those are the reasons, then I think you would have left quickly. And because my summers are full of learning, and really my passion is in learning, and my passion is in spending time with young people and seeing that learning moment. I love seeing the learning of my kids, I think that's why so many people are struggling today, is because that their passion is in having fun learning, and they see the testing culture taking some of that passion away from them, and some of the choice and voice that we are promoting in students away from the teachers. I think that's the ironic thing is the movement right now in education is to give students choice and voice. We hear those hashtags and terms a lot, yet when teachers are concerned, I think teachers feel they've lost it, especially when policies say everything's non-negotiable or other things in contract language, etc. We struggle, and I think that's why we do need, and I think that's why the michED community is sitting here promoting it, that we do need that, and we also need to retap our passions if we want to grow as. Wow, cool music. Sorry, you needed me to stop talking.
Sorry, my mom
Got
was
it.
calling me. I told her to call me back later because Todd Block's talking.
Oh,
Go
well,
ahead.
sorry, Mom, but no, I was. So yeah, I think that's what I was saying. So, what are you guys' opinions?
Well, I wanted to actually ask you, maybe it's a related question or slightly different question, Todd, because as I see all the tweets come across, and to me these are really reflecting just how in so many different ways people love teaching and why they love teaching, all these teachers, different ways, right? And so in your building, I wonder if you and your colleagues share at this level in any particular way why you love teaching, and if so, and if not, do you understand why one another loves teaching, and is there a way to communicate that to your students who may have fellow colleagues that and you know something about them, right? So it's like if I work with Jeff and I work with Brandon, and I know their passions, so whenever I interact with somebody else who I know is going to interact with Jeff or Brandon, I tell them a lot about Jeff and Brandon from my experience and what they know and what they love. So they kind of know Jeff and Brandon through me, and then once they engage with them, it's like they kind of already know them, So you kind of spread this idea of all my teachers are really great, and they're really passionate about teaching in different ways. And as a student, if I understand how passionate they are in different ways, I may pay attention a little bit more. Maybe I might appreciate them a little differently because Mr. Block appreciates them in a way. And I really respect Mr. Block. Is there any kind of synergy that goes on like that in your building?
You bring up some. I'm glad you extended the question. It didn't end because I was struggling to understand it. But then when you continue to talk about the experience, I think so. We've spent a lot of time in our building with team building over the years. Now, granted, when new staff members come in, there's a learning curve, and it takes time to get to know them. But yes, I think that definitively, and especially in a middle school environment where we're dealing with this unique age of juvenile self-discovery, we have to. We have advisory periods. We spend time mentoring the students, and sometimes we say this child isn't a best fit for us, but they might work for this. And I work with some incredible teachers. Do we get to know them? Yes. And wholeheartedly, I've taught with the two teachers that teach 8th grade science. So I say, I know next year, and I've taught with the teachers that teach science. So we do that vertically, and we do that, on our teams. And, we definitely do that in a way. I don't know if that sometimes it's subtle, so that students might not pick on it as much as they probably should. But it needs to happen. I think that's also unique to a middle school style, not a junior high, because we do have the teaming. We spend team time. We use PLC time to help to, part of it is to help for us to get to know each other. I see that lost. I've seen junior high models where they don't have that when you're too busy. And I think over the last few years we've gotten too busy, so the relationships sort of have gotten strained. And staff. Some of the new staff members haven't gotten known as well. Luckily, the teachers I know really well. The current other 7th grade science teacher I've taught with my whole teaching career, not directly, but she's been in the building, and that's what's unique about it. So I've known her for 15 years, and it's been a great relationship. But as we add new staff, and as the times are getting stressed and busy, we have to either carve that time out and hold it sacred to make sure we do that, or it gets lost.
I think that concept of keeping it sacred, making it sacred, I think says a lot about how important relationship building is, and by keeping the relationships important and keeping those intact, you all can support each other in your physical spaces, right? Because again, I'm just seeing all this participation going on online, yet you would hope that it's a reflection of what's going on in the building, and sometimes that happens, I assume, depending on the situation. And then you feel kind of bad if you think, oh man, these folks just might be the lone wolves out there, you know? They might be by themselves.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Peter. Because I think some people don't want to feel that vulnerable to make themselves in a school environment. You know, you're opening yourselves up to criticism and other things. And I don't know if every teacher feels comfortable being vulnerable. I know that when I started teaching, we had a team time period and a personal prep. And having that built into our building culture a long time ago, we've since lost it because of budget cuts. That we now just have personal preps. But our administrators fought hard to keep team teaching, and our personal preps are with our team or with our department, so that we have that time to make those connections. And they're encouraged during our PLC time. That our administrator has done a great job of holding that sacred, but it's slowly been eroded over the years as the team time, and now less and less of the teachers have been there from that time when we used to do more and more team building at staff meetings and less data walks. And I think the pressures, and I don't blame our administrators, I think they've tried to keep it sacred. I think the pressures of unfunded mandates from states and budget cuts and other things have really made districts become in ways that they don't want to do, and they struggle with it, and they see, well, hey, do we keep something sacred, or can we cut that out of our budget and we don't have to lose staff, and different things like that. And that's where I think superintendents have to be challenged, and they have to make those really tough decisions for districts in the day and age. Until we value that stuff and we become like Finland or even Japan, where the teachers have, or even college structure, where teachers teach less hours, but they're working the same amount of time, but they have less teaching hours, and then they have those times to build the relationships. I think it's great. At being at Nova now this past week and seeing the schedule that those teachers have, and seeing the incredible project-based learning activities that they're designing for those students, and the incredible physical space that they use to do their learning, I'm like, well, that's the model we really need to go in. It was an incredible concept they have at Ken Innovation High School, and the things that they're doing seem to be like a model. And the fact that teachers didn't have desks in their classrooms, and they had a whole office space that seems, all the teachers in one office, that builds that collaboration. So you're sitting next to each other as you're planning and talking and building those relationships and understanding the passions. I think that's a model we might need to move towards.
Yeah.
Thank
you for sharing for that. That's really powerful, Todd.
Yeah, and I think something you guys were saying about sometimes being isolated, or maybe you are the new person in the district, or what have you. I think that's one of the great benefits of the michED community, is that you can, if you don't know the different people in your building, in your district, that are around you physically, you can sort of reach out, or not even reach out, like just observe kind of the engagements and the passions that are going on, in the michED community, whether it's the Twitter chats on Wednesday nights, the tweet ups, or I think it's like the EdTech rallies, or what have you. That's an opportunity for you to sort of connect with that, and I think maybe there's some level of there's less vulnerability there, because you're not face to face and trying to seek out these relationships, and you just kind of become part of it, and it's maybe less intimidating, because there's some anonymity behind it. You're just a small square on a larger screen. So perhaps that's another good role that this community serves.
I think a lot of it is the intentionally putting aside time to do these sort of things. Like, I think that intentionally having team building efforts are important. At least, from my perspective, I in the district that I taught in for 6 years, I came in halfway through the year to fill a mid-year vacancy, and I bounced around from school to school, and I got to know people. but a lot of it was just in my content area, and it wasn't ever a collaborative plan period or anything like that. We when when we're talking about Twitter Space, like that's that at 8 o'clock on Wednesday nights we're gonna come and we're gonna have a conversation around X topic, and it's gonna be a celebration of what we do, and by proxy, we're gonna get to know each other, and I think that teachers talking about teaching and particularly their own practice, and if you're in a building where you can work together in order to have collaborative lesson building, you get to know each other and you get to trust each other. But culture doesn't. Culture is going to happen no matter what you do. You have to intentionally cultivate a positive culture if that is what you're aiming to do. And Todd's right. Everyone's on board with this. I mean, teachers should make the effort to say, okay, I feel vulnerable, but I know the benefits of, I want to know this person. And maybe it doesn't have to be like I give you my all this is my entire unit plan structure for the year, but also the administrators can play a vital role, like Todd said, in trying to put value on that time, and that trickles down. I know when there's a culture of collaboration among teachers that's natural, that's authentic, the collaboration between teachers and students and amongst students, by proxy, it's contagious. But I think that I'm trying to stay positive here, Todd, because I do have a positive tone to what positive intentions to this. I don't think that we've done an adequate job of knowing how to collaborate ourselves, and therefore, how are we going to encourage a culture of collaboration amongst our students if we're not going to authentically collaborate with one another?
Jeff, you bring up a very good point. I don't think our generation, or at least my generation, I'm a graduate of School of Ed around 99, 2000, and I don't think we were taught how to collaborate. I don't think we were challenged how to collaborate. I know we weren't taught how to teach collaboration, and I want to know are the things that I really wonder, are the things that we're talking about in michED community Twitter chat, are these the things that they're talking about in schools of ed today? And are we challenging the next generation of teachers, or are their classes the way they were when I went through them or you all went through them? And how are we going to change that? I know that currently michED community is trying to reach out to the schools of ed, and we need them to know what we're talking about, because it seems like there's a disconnect between what schools of ed curriculum are, because we're not doing it like medicine. In medicine, the schools of medicine, Oakland University has a school of medicine at Beaumont Hospital. You're practicing in a hospital. Why are we learning to teach in a college campus without students? And I think that's where we struggle, and when we don't learn it at that elementary level, as I think somebody said earlier, we throw them off in the deep end. That was a conversation I had here at this tweet up, but through throwing our new teachers off in the deep end when they haven't learned how to swim yet, and hopefully they tread water, and sometimes they get thrown a life vest, or sometimes they get a hand reaching out. But we need to make a better system, and we need to think about other systems and how they function. And teaching is a very organic, passionate profession. Everybody goes into it just like they go into medicine. It's because of love of it. It has nothing else to do with it.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be a doctor because you want to work doctor's hours. I'm a son of a doctor. I never
you want
saw
lots of college debt is what you want when you become a doctor.
You want lots of college. I mean, you're going to be rich, graduate with millions. You have to do these things for passion, and how can we re-tap that passion and make sure it strives right through whatever's get thrown against you, instead of it getting buried under piles and piles of all the extra stresses that come into teaching.
Absolutely.
I wonder, Todd, if this whole idea of love and passion, so loving what you do, and just the whole concept of love is a shield. The more you can build your relationships, you build this capacity of love. So when you're getting battered by policy, by rules, by whatever is not really helping you become a better teacher, you've developed enough insulation through your relationships and being reminded of why you are a teacher that can help to buffer a lot of the stresses and strains of every day. But you got to be able to continue to build that up. And how do you do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get it worn down, and then your shield is thin. You get burned and buffer. So that great analogy, Peter. I think we need to think about that, and I think that's really what needs to be cultivated from the first time you walk in a School of Ed campus, which should be, on a public school campus or in a charter school or a public school, and they're both public. But so they, the moment you walk into it, it's like, I know we took a teacher receiver test when I went to School of Ed, and it was like, do you have the right qualities and properties and your passions to pursue this? And yes, you do. And then how do we continue to cultivate that and make relationships bud and grow, build up that thick buffer of love so that when you are encountering mandates that are being handed down from on high, that you block it off and you keep moving forward. Continue with the growth mindset instead of, I'm going to follow whatever anybody tells me to do. I'm going to jump through the hoops no matter how far wide they move. And but I like that. I really question how can we make that happen and make it continual so that everybody recaps in their love. And that's why I appreciated the hashtag being thrown out and what Gary has been doing and why michED picked this up.
And that's a perfect note to end on. I think we just came full circle and sort of addressed question number 6. So it's 9 o'clock. Todd, thank you so much for joining us as always. I really looking forward to meeting you in person at McCall. And
you guys too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll come up with a secret handshake or something, and then we'll share it with everyone, so it's not secret anymore.
Well,
I want to see Todd with the michED shirt on the front, and the back it says, "I'm that clever."
Yeah. We should get a custom order one.
Well,
We'll come with a nameplate that we can just put on the back. That's what we'll do. He's gonna have the michED shirt on.
Hashtag clever Todd.
Yes.
Yes.
Can't wait to see you guys, and thank you for running the video michED Live, because I think this adds an extra piece to everything. So thank you.
Anytime. And Peter and Jeff, I'll see you guys in the morning. Someone better bring donuts.
All right.
It's your turn.
Yeah, maybe. Jeff, do you want to sign us off with a haiku about why you love teaching?
How many lines are haikus? Is it 3?
5, 7, 5.
5, 7, 5.
The 2, yeah.
I love teaching. Yep. Michigan teachers win.
You weren't a lit teacher, right? You were.
No, a social studies teacher, man.
All right. Well, we'll let you off the hook here, and it was a good chat tonight. I'm glad we did it. So
thanks
really
for the invite. I appreciate it, guys.
Okay. Well, see you guys next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Signing off. Good night.